friends! Today I'm going to do something a little different from what I usually do, so it's an extra video. But today I wanted to do a little Q&A and answer your most frequently asked questions. Now I do get a lot of personal questions in my comments and I do try to answer all of them, but I'm pretty sure not everyone will read my answers and I figured I might as well do it in a video. Now my plan for today was actually to put my V70 inside and do an oil change and clean my interior while answering your questions, but it turns out it doesn't fit in here together with my CRX, so that wasn't ideal, so I decided to just sit down and relax and have a little chat with you guys, so that will be a bit relaxing for me too for once. Now, my number one most frequently asked question is what my full-time job is, and I'm actually not a mechanic because I do get asked that a lot, but I write for a Dutch car magazine called Auto Week, which is directly translated to Car Week, and I write online buying guides for second-hand cars. So I write about what the problems are, what to look out for when looking for a certain car and whether it suits you and all kinds of stuff like that. So that's really something for me, you know. I like buying second-hand cars, only I buy very shitty cars because I like to have some projects, but I do advise people on how to buy an actually good car that suits you. So that's what I do as a full-time job. And another question I got is how I got to work at a Dutch car magazine, and that's actually a pretty funny story, I think. I used to work for a vitamin store, so I used to write articles also online about vitamins and health and everything. But that company unfortunately pulled the plug. I really enjoyed working there, so it was kind of sad. But so I didn't have a job back then. And my parents asked me, what would you like to do if you could do anything? And I was like, well, I'd like to keep writing, but I would like to write about cars. And that's how it all began. I actually wrote a letter to Auto Week asking if I could work there, and they said yes. So that's why I work there, and I combine it with working on cars, and I think that's just perfect for me because now I can do everything I love. Then on to the next question. I put them all on my phone because I thought it would be easier. Next question is, are you a trained mechanic? Which I get asked a lot as well. Or how did you learn to work on cars? Well, I'm not a trained mechanic. I actually studied communications, but I've always had this passion for cars, I think. Well, not always. It started after I bought my first car. I really wanted to learn how to work on cars, so I just got to it and I destroyed a whole lot of things just by trying. But I think that's the best way to learn. I always try to work on my own cars, and I was always the first in line when a friend of mine had to work on his car and I wanted to help, and that's actually how it all went. I've also helped some actual mechanics and they gave me tips and advice, and I do get a lot of advice from my YouTube, so that's amazing. But I'm not a trained mechanic, and yeah, I just learned by doing, and that's actually for all of the skills I have. Because like I said, I studied communications and you don't learn anything about cars there, no. But the fun thing about that is that I think that when you really put your heart to it, you can learn and achieve everything you want. Because I'd never expected when I was younger that I'll be doing all of this, what I'm doing now, because I'm doing all kinds of work on cars, and I think that would be a big dream of mine when I was younger. And now I've accomplished many of those things just by doing, actually, and you don't need any special tools or experience to just try, you know. Next question is, how old were you when you first worked on cars? Well, I was 17 back then, because that's when I bought my first car. I couldn't even drive back then, but I really wanted a car. I actually saw a Honda Del Sol and I thought that was the most awesome car I had ever seen. So I went on Marketplace and I looked for a Del Sol and I bought one that was completely stock. And then that car was sitting outside of my house and I was looking at it and I was like, why is this Del Sol so ugly? The other one I saw was so pretty. I wanted to look like that one. So I looked up some pictures on Instagram and I figured that I just didn't like stock cars. And that's where it all began, because then I bought my first coil-over set, I think, for headlights. One of those two things. And I decided to just try and change those. And changing my coilovers took me 2 weeks. And it was around Christmas time, so it was snowing and it was really cold. And it was actually horrible, but I really enjoyed the process. And that's when I just started working on cars, and I had a really low budget, so I always bought really shitty parts. But it was just about wrenching for me, actually. And I did quite a few modifications on that car. Well, nothing too serious. I always wanted to swap an engine because it was a D series and it was really slow. And I wanted to swap a B series in it, but I didn't know how to. And then I bought my second car, which is this CRX, and I decided to just buy a B series. And that took me 2 years to swap because, again, I didn't know what I was doing and I had to look up videos and ask other people. And when I started working on cars, I didn't have any car friends. I don't have any family member or, well, like I said, friends back then that were into cars. So I had to look up everything myself. And that's when I went on Instagram and tried to find some car-related friends. And I found some Del Sol friends back then, and they wanted to help and give me advice, and it was really fun. And that's how I got into the car scene and working on cars. I actually started pretty late. I wish I had a interesting story of when I was younger and someone taught me how to rebuild an engine or something, but no, unfortunately not. The next question is a non-car related question, and that is, what is your favorite kind of food? I think that's a pretty fun question. I think, well, anything from the Indonesian cuisine, kitchen, you know what I mean. For those of you that don't know, I'm half Indonesian, half Dutch. So my mom's Dutch and my dad's Indonesian. And I really like the Indonesian food. I don't like Dutch food very much because it's really boring. We eat things like hutspot, which is carrots and potatoes mixed. And that's boring. We have really boring food here. But Indonesian food's my favorite. Well, definitely Asian food. I think it's a bit more spicy and non-boring than the Dutch food. Next question is, what would be your ultimate project car? I think that's a fun question, and I think everyone expects a Volvo, but my ultimate project car would be a BMW E24 because I think that's the sickest car there is. I would love to own one next to my E28. I really love old school BMWs, so I do enjoy working on Volvos, but yeah, my ultimate project car would be a BMW, I think. Or this has always been one of my dream cars as well, is a Mercedes W123, how do you say that in English? And then a diesel, and I would love to swap a OM606 into it. I think that would be really sick as well, but I'm really a Euro car girly, but my ultimate project car would not be a Volvo, so I'm sorry. Oh, this question goes into what I said earlier, that it's super hard to find a space to work, and that is, why is it so hard to find a place to work on your cars close to your home in the Netherlands? Well, that's mostly because it's just really expensive. Everything's really expensive, depending on where you are located. So in the cities, everything's a whole lot more expensive than when you're in a small village where I'm currently at, because this is actually an old cow stable. Is that how you say it? Well, you know what I mean. And that's a whole lot cheaper than when you're in the city and you buy an actual garage or anything. Well, I'm renting this, but it's really hard because everything's just expensive, mostly. And I'm a bit poor. I never have any money because I spent everything on my project cars now and things to just live, because I'd like to eat rather than have a nice garage. Well, this is nice, but it's really small. It's not ideal, but I'm still looking for one bigger garage that's reasonably priced, but it's just really expensive. So I'd rather drive for an hour with my diesel that doesn't run on water or anything, but it's cheaper than renting something close to home up until now, so yeah. Next question is, what do your parents think of your hobby? Well, I think my mom has already replied to that comment. That's really sweet, but my parents really support my hobby and they do like what I do. Well, now I think my mom found it a bit weird earlier that I was working on cars as a girl, but I can't blame her. But my parents are really supportive. They buy me tools for my birthday or tires or something, and I think they like it now. They didn't like it back then when I used to live at home and have all of my car parts there and 3 cars in front of the house when we only have 6 parking spaces with the entire street, and well, that wasn't ideal, but I think it's a bit better now. Where did you learn to speak English? Well, I did learn in school, but I think I've learned most of it by online video games, because I used to be a gamer girl. No, I used to play a whole lot of video games and I was playing online with my headset on, and that's where I had a lot of practice, but I also learned something in school. But as far as I remember, I learned most of it before I had English in school. But most Dutch people do speak English pretty well, because nobody ever speaks Dutch around the world. So you gotta learn English if you want to talk to other people outside of the Netherlands. The Netherlands is really small, so it's really useful to speak English. Alright, next question. Don't laugh at my pronunciation, because I'm just going to read the question, how it was asked. But sprichst du auch etwas Deutsch? Nein. It means if I speak German. No, I don't. I've had German in school as well, but my German is just really bad. We never had to speak, we were always just writing. And I can read German and hear it a bit, but I can't speak German, no. Another question that I wasn't sure if I was going to answer in this Q&A, but I did want to make it a bit personal, so yes, I am going to answer it. Are you in a relationship? No, I'm not, so no. Why Volvo and why the 850R? That's also a question I get asked a lot. And that's mainly because people find it weird that as a young girl, I'm not even that young, I'm 26. Yeah, I'm 26. But why Volvo? Well, my love for Volvo actually started a bit later than my passion for cars, because I started out with just Hondas. Like I said, my first car was a Honda del Sol and my second car was, well, this car. But I really wanted to learn how to do engine work, and that's when I started to work on Volvos, because a friend of mine, Pascal, who you've also seen on my other videos, did a lot of engine work on Volvos, and I could help him around, and that's when I learned a whole lot about Volvos, and I really started to appreciate them. Also because Hondas are super expensive in parts, and Volvos are a bit cheaper, and with not a lot of money you can make them really fast and fun to drive. So I think that's amazing. And why the 850R? Well, mostly because I think it's just an iconic Volvo. It's not per se that I think that's the best Volvo in the world. I really like V70s and that whole platform as well, and I'd love to get an R, V70R, from that platform too. But I think when you love Volvos, you have had to have an 850R, and I think it's really fun to drive as well. I used to work a lot on 850Rs because I've worked for a short time, I think a year, but only a day a week in a Volvo garage, and I would just work on 850Rs, disassembling them so they could be repainted and restored. So that's when I learned a lot about 850s too. And I thought it would be fun to get one of my own and work on that one, because I know where all the bolts are and how to work on an 850, so it was also a bit easier for me. But yeah, it's just a cool car to have, I guess. I just love the vibe it gives me. Next question is, how tall are you? I'm 170 centimeters, which is 5'7", I believe. I'm going to check that, but I'm pretty sure it's 5'7". Where do you get your t-shirts from? The Del Sol and yellow Volvo. Well, the Del Sol shirt I got when I was 18, and I don't remember, I got it from the internet, but this shirt I actually designed and made myself. So I think this is a fun question. And I am working on a web shop currently where I will list this shirt for sale as well as some other shirts I'm making, because I'm going to try and make some merchandise. So please stay tuned for that. And thank you for that question, because I think you like my shirt then. Thank you. What are your hobbies outside of cars? Well, that's actually a funny question, because I do have a whole lot of other hobbies outside of cars, but I never do anything with my other hobbies because I'm always working on cars. My full-time job, I'm working, well, writing about cars, and in the weekends I'm only working on my cars, because yeah, that's when I make my content. But I do have a whole lot of other hobbies. Well, I do have one hobby that I spend time on, that's going to the gym, but I also think health is really important, so I'm also doing that for my health and not just because I enjoy that. But I used to have a hobby, well, it's still my hobby, but with houseplants. I used to have a whole lot of plants with all kind of different special species. I used to have 200 of them, but since I'm never home, since I'm working total of 60 to 70 hours a week, and I'm also driving 10 hours a week, I think, because my work's 1.5 hours away from home as well. Single trip. So I only have 20 plants left, but I used to have a whole lot of houseplants, and I used to propagate them and all kinds of fun stuff. I also really like gardening. That's kind of related, but I like to grow veggies and eat them, of course. I also really like to draw and do creative stuff, so drawing, painting and all that kind of stuff. I also like to draw cars, so that's car related, but it's something different. And not too long ago I used to crochet a lot, but that takes so much time and I don't have spare time. But that's another hobby of mine. So I do have all kinds of different hobbies outside of cars, but it's just cars for now. Oh, and also I really like hiking and going for walks. I do that sometimes during the weekends. I go for a little hike, but nothing too special. But that's something I really enjoy because it gives my head some space and clearance. Now, what do you love about cars? Well, it's mostly the wrenching specifically that I really enjoy. It's not even the driving. I do enjoy driving my cars, but it's mostly wrenching that I just really love, and building something that you love and trying to just make it perfect. That's when my whole hobby started. I didn't even want to wrench specifically when I got my car. I just wanted it to look cool. But when I first started actually working on it, I was like, this is amazing. This is what I want to spend all of my free time on from now on. I just really enjoy being on myself, I guess. I do really enjoy company of friends, but I also like being alone and just being alone with my car and spending some time on it. And yeah. It's mostly the wrenching itself that I just really enjoy. So that's why I keep getting new project cars, and I'm not even driving most of them. Like my Syrinx never gets outside really, but I love building it and taking care of it. Maybe that sounds a bit weird, but that's mostly what I enjoy about cars. I never go to car meets or anything either, and I don't really participate in the car community that much. Well, I do upload on YouTube, but yeah, it's mostly just working on cars. And that's also what I do with friends, because as you see on my other videos, maybe with my friends Leon and Pascal, we're always working on cars, and when there's no camera we're working on one of their cars. That's just how my friendship works, and that's how I like to spend my time. Tell us about the cars you have had in the past. Well, I really gotta think now. My first car was my Del Sol, then I bought this one, then I bought a Volvo 343. Yeah, I sold that, then I immediately missed it and I bought a Volvo 345. So that's a 5-door like my 340, but then the older version. I'll try to find some pictures of all of these cars and insert them. I sold that. I've also had a Volvo 740 with a turbo engine from a 940, and I really missed that. I was really broke and I didn't have money to eat, so I had to sell my 740, and ever since I've really missed it. So my plan for the future is to buy a 740. That one was really cool and I want to turbo swap it again. I love that car so much, and that's just sad. I think that's all of the cars I have had in the past and I no longer have, because other than that I keep everything. I currently have 8 cars or something. It's a problem, this is getting out of hand. Alright, this question is from a friend of mine, but One Piece or a Pokemon? Well, definitely One Piece. Now, is the car culture judging you because you are a woman? Well, definitely yes, but that's mostly on the internet. People are just really mean, and also here in the comments, but I do delete all of them. But people always tell me to go back to the kitchen or something, and that's just annoying. I think I can cook, you know, I can take care of myself. I clean my house and I cook, but I also work on cars, okay? Leave me alone. But in real life people are nice, but on the internet people are just really mean, and also just because of your appearance. It doesn't matter what you do, I think people will always judge you and be mean about it. But yeah, I definitely do get a whole lot of comments and mean people getting at me for being a woman and doing this. But I think that's mostly because people aren't feeling well themselves. They probably have a shitty life and they try to react by making you feel miserable as well. And it's also maybe a part of jealousy. People are just annoying sometimes, but most of you guys are really sweet. I love you guys. Alright, I'm already talking for half an hour, I see, and I'm going to cut something, but I think I'm going to answer just this one question, and that's it for today. Maybe I'll do another Q&A later, but I don't want this video to be an hour long. But are you going to buy a Volvo V70R? And yes, I'm really planning on buying one from the P2 generation. I'd love that, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm actually going to buy a V70R or if I'm going to buy a regular V70 and build it to be faster than an R, because why not, you know? I'd like to engine swap something again, and I want to work on a Volvo engine again, because that's where it is all started. So maybe I'll just get a regular V70 and build it or something, but I'm definitely planning on a V70R. 70R project soon. So yeah, please stay tuned for that. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up for now. And thank you guys so much for these questions. If you're still there, thank you. You're a real one. I really appreciate you guys. And I'm hoping that I answered most of your questions. In 2 days, I'll be back with another regular video. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching this video. And I see you next time. Bye.